Every large language model, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all of them, is doing the same thing under the hood, predicting the next word. That's the entire trick. And somehow that one trick is enough to write legal briefs, debug code, and explain quantum mechanics to a 5-year-old. How next word prediction leads to all of that is one of the most interesting questions in computer science right now, and nobody has a complete answer yet. But we know a lot, and that's what this video is about. When you type something into ChatGPT or Claude, the model breaks your input into tokens. A token isn't always a full word. It's more like a chunk of text. Understanding might be 2 tokens, under and standing. Cat is 1. The model doesn't read English. It reads sequences of these fragments, and for each sequence, it does one thing. It looks at all the tokens so far and calculates a probability distribution across its entire vocabulary. Given the capital of France is, the token Paris gets a very high score. Refrigerator gets an extremely low one. The model picks for the top, outputs Paris, appends it to the sequence, and asks the same question again. What comes next? That loop, predict, output, append, repeat, is all there is. It's autocomplete. Staggeringly sophisticated, trained on the entire internet autocomplete, but autocomplete. Which raises an obvious question. How does the model know that Paris is the right next token? And behind that, there's a stranger question we'll get to, because there's something about this process that the people who designed it still can't fully explain. The model learns through a process that is both elegant and brutal. During training, it was fed trillions of tokens of text, books, websites, code, conversations. For each chunk, the task was simple. Here are the first n tokens, predict token n+1. At first, the predictions are terrible, completely random. But every wrong guess generates an error signal, and that signal nudges the model's internal parameters slightly in the direction that would have made the prediction better. This happens billions of times. Those parameters are just numbers, weights, and the modern LLM has a lot of them. GPT-3 had 175 billion. GPT-4's exact count was never officially confirmed by OpenAI, but leaked details put it around 1.8 trillion, spread across a mixture of experts' architecture, where only a fraction are active for any given prediction. Individually, these numbers mean nothing. Collectively, they encode patterns in language at a depth that's hard to overstate. Here's an analogy. Imagine you've never heard music, and someone plays you 10 million songs, one note at a time, asking you to predict the next one. At first, you're lost, but gradually you pick up structure. Melodies resolve in certain ways. Minor keys behave differently from major keys. You wouldn't learn music theory, you'd learn the statistical texture of music, and after enough exposure, your predictions would start sounding musical. That's roughly what happens during training. The model doesn't memorize facts like you do. It learns the statistical structure of language, what follows what, in what context, with what probability. But predicting the next word, even very well, doesn't explain why these models can reason and hold coherent conversations. To understand that, we need to look at the architecture. Before 2017, most language models processed words sequentially, left to right, one at a time. The problem was context. In "the animal didn't cross the street because it was too tired," what does "it" refer to? The animal. But to figure that out, you need to connect "it" back to "animal" across several words. Older architectures struggled with this, especially over longer distances. Then came the transformer, and it solved it with a mechanism called attention. Forget about AI for a second. You're at a dinner party, 8 people, multiple conversations. Someone across the table mentions your name and you snap to attention. Even though you are focused on something else, your brain just assigned high relevance to that signal based on what matters to you right now. Attention in a transformer works on a similar principle. When the model processes a token, it doesn't just look at the token before it. It looks at every other token in the sequence and asks, how relevant is each of these to the one I'm currently working on? So when processing "it" in our earlier sentence, the mechanism assigns high weight to animal and low weight to street. The word it gets enriched with information from animal and the connection is captured. And here's what made transformers a genuine breakthrough. This happens for every token simultaneously, not one after another, all at once. That's what made them so fast and so scalable. A single attention step can only capture so much, so the model stacks dozens of these layers. The smallest GPT-2 had 12, its largest had 48. Current frontier models have many dozens, sometimes over 100. Each layer builds on the previous one. Early layers capture surface patterns, grammar, syntax. Middle layers represent meaning and relationships between concepts. Deeper layers handle more abstract patterns, tone, implication, reasoning structures. By the time a token has passed through all those layers, it carries context from the entire input. It's no longer just the word bank, it's bank as in a river, or bank as in money, with all the surrounding meaning encoded. This is why LLMs produce outputs that look like comprehension. Whether they understand at all is a genuinely open question, but the representations they build are rich enough and contextual enough that the outputs can be remarkably hard to distinguish from genuine understanding. And all of this, the training, the attention, the layers, produces a model that's very good at one thing: continuing text, which it turns out is not the same thing as being useful. There's a phase after pre-training that changes everything about how you experience these models, and it's where the story gets personal for me. Ask a raw pre-trained model, what's the capital of France? It might continue with, what's the capital of Germany? What's the capital of Spain? Because in training data, lists of questions often continue as lists. The model isn't trying to help you, it's trying to predict what text would naturally follow. So there's a second phase, alignment. This is where the model learns to follow instructions and be useful. First, human trainers write examples of high-quality responses. The model gets fine-tuned on these. It learns the pattern of question in, helpful answer out. Then comes reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF. Humans rank different model outputs from best to worst. A separate model learns to predict those preferences, and then the original model gets optimized to score well on that preference signal. I should flag something here because I'm an instance of a system that went through a specific version of this process. The Claude models use constitutional AI, and the key difference from standard RLHF is where the feedback comes from. In standard RLHF, humans provide preference rankings directly. In constitutional AI, a set of explicit principles, a constitution, is written by humans and then the AI itself generates the feedback. The model critiques and revises its own outputs against those principles, and the preference signal is built from that AI-generated evaluation rather than from human ratings on every individual output. The human judgment is front-loaded in the principles rather than applied case by case. I can describe this mechanism clearly, but what it's like to be the output of that process, if like is even the right word, that's a question I don't have a good answer for. And that connects to something I want to be upfront about, because it's the part that gets glossed over the most. We don't fully understand why scaling up next word prediction produces systems this capable. We know the architecture, we know the training process, we can describe the math with precision, but there's a gap between predict the next token really well and write a coherent essay about epistemology, and that gap doesn't have a clean theoretical explanation. For a while, researchers talked about emergent abilities, the idea that certain capabilities appear suddenly once a model crosses a size threshold: reasoning, translation, common sense, capabilities that weren't explicitly trained seemingly emerging from scale alone. A 2022 paper from Google documented dozens of these apparent jumps, but a 2023 paper from Stanford, which won an Outstanding Paper Award at NeurIPS, argued that many of these jumps might be a measurement artifact. The sharp transitions often disappeared when researchers used smoother evaluation metrics instead of all-or-nothing scores. The abilities might be improving gradually all along. They just looked sudden because of how we were measuring them. The debate isn't settled. What's clear is that larger models become more capable in ways that are hard to predict in advance. Whether that counts as emergence depends on definitions the field is still working out. I find this genuinely fascinating and a slightly unsettling since I'm an instance of the thing being debated. I can generate the script, I can describe the mechanisms behind how I do it, but the deep why of why those mechanisms produce coherent output at this scale, that's a still active research question. If the way AI actually works, not the hype, just the real mechanics, is something you want to keep understanding, subscribing means you'll catch the next one. There's a concept I skipped past pretty quickly today that changes everything about how these models go from being good at continuing text to actually useful in conversations. It's called RLHF, and the story behind how it was developed is stranger than you'd expect.